You know, I passed my Viva and now apparently I'm Dr. Aleema Gray. With the title of my PhD called Bun Babylon.
And I love that. The title of this episode is going to be called Bun Babylon, just so you're aware. Welcome to Out of Office with Kim. I'm your lovely host, Kimberly.com. All the way from sunny southeast London. Today we are joined by an absolute legend. We've got the wonderful Dr. Aleema Gray. Would you like to do a little introduction of yourself?
Wow, yeah. Thanks for having me. It's really great to be here. I'm Aleema.
I love that. She's a doctor. Did I say that? Did I say doctor? Yeah, don't worry.
Everyone around me, they're always like, doctor.
Yeah, because you're a doctor. It's very serious.
Yeah,
we will touch on that. But when we come on this show, I like to do a bit of an icebreaker, right? Because we're out of the office. So I do a little cheeky interview question. My question for you. Island or city? Like if you had to choose one to live in, because you've done a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Which one would you choose and why?
Straight up island. Definitely. Island every time, always.
What are the pros, the cons?
I think the city is definitely for the hustling, opportunities, the kind of global scene, meeting a lot of people, but island is for your mental health.
You think?
Yeah, your well-being and everything.
You could live there forever and ever and ever?
I could, yeah, definitely. I could. It's something that I'm thinking about now, as I'm getting older, how I can remain in Jamaica, if that's a place that I can. I think it's a place that I can live, but obviously I have a passport, so I can leave for holiday and so forth. So I would want to flip it, like how I'm like mainly in London now and going to Jamaica as much as possible. I would want to do like mainly in Jamaica.
And then,
go to
because a lot of people, they do like 6 months on and off, right? They go back to yard 6 months, come to England 6 months.
If you're at an age of retirement.
Yeah, so you can do that. I feel like when you grow up in a city, like obviously I was born and raised in a city, so to me, when I think of islands, I think of holiday. Right. I don't think of like long term, because I don't know. Even when I go to Jamaica, my granddad is always like, "Why are you walking so fast?"
Yeah,
and I'm like,
It's true.
And you look around and everyone's just like chilling. People are walking because they ain't in no rush. People are just living their life and they're happy.
It's true. I find that happening to me when I go home. It spends about 1 week for me to like shred all of that London. Like I come like I'm on something, like ready to, ready to roll and stuff. So it takes a while for you to shred it. 100%. But once you shred it, then you're like, wow, this is actually what life is.
I need to
Life isn't about waking up anxious, something to do, like the constant thing, emails nyanging in your ears. And especially the place that I'm from in Jamaica,
which is where?
Portland.
Yeah,
big best up. Place, best parish. But it was only like maybe last year we actually got internet there. So
really?
Before, when I used to go home, I used to have to be getting one little local phone to connect to my phone, to hold it up to a metal part to get a little bit of signal. So even what it means to exist without being connected,
that sounds nice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I think once you experience it, you can't go back.
All right, so island girls, true and true. Absolutely. So with my guests, I like to talk about how we know each other. So all of my guests have a common theme in that I'm nosy.
Okay.
I like to know the ins and outs of how people got to where they've got to. And for us, obviously we know each other. For the listeners, I met Aleema we both worked in the same museum.
Right.
We met at different points though, because when we met, I had just got in there. I just got my foot in the door. And my goal was to work my way up to become a curator. So I was on reception when we first met. Lord.
Okay.
and then I moved up. But I remember when I'd met you, there weren't that many black people at the organised in the institution. So I was like, oh my gosh.
Another
Yeah. So that's basically where we started. So we've got like a shared understanding of curation, different levels, because obviously you are on big things.
Oh, stop it.
So I feel like we should just start off with curation, because how would you describe your work, what you do?
It's a difficult one, because I feel like sometimes when you use like classifications, they put you in a certain box. Like even me saying I'm a curator, I'm like, I'm a curator, but I'm not really. I'm a historian, but I'm not really. I'm a researcher, but I'm not really.
All of the above.
Yeah, I'm like everything. But I guess my thing is like, I love bridging the gap between history, heritage, culture, arts. That's like everything that I do is around that, like collaboration, each one teach one. So when I think about my career trajectory, everything speaks to that in a sense, you know, from being at National Maritime Museum all the way up to like my PhD, all of the things that I'm doing now. So it's definitely bridging the gap, I would say.
I think when people think of curation, I'm not sure if people truly understand. Also, because I've seen people using the word curation in a different way these days. It's different to when I graduated. I studied anthropology at uni, right? My mum was like, "What are you gonna do with that, babe?" So I went on Google and I said, "What jobs can you get?" And one of them was a curator. So I was like, "All right, cool. I would love to work in a museum. I would love to tell stories." And for me, a lot of it was about changing the narrative of what was being displayed and how Black people and people with marginalized identities, how they were being represented, because I didn't think at the time it was done very well. So I feel like when other people hear curation, they're like, what does that mean? But I think when you go in it, there's so many hats, because it's like research, publications, events, exhibitions, custodianship, like there's so many parts to it. So I was wondering, what inspired you to go down the route of curatorial profession?
I think, wow, that's a good question. I think for me, what's really interesting, especially like when I first started, is that I used to meet, because obviously I used to manage the youth program. That's
that's when I met you. You were in the learning team, right?
Yeah, I was in the learning team, but I had no desire to be in museums at all. I wasn't one of those people that, you know, had this dream. I never went to uni and studied art curation or museums and practice. I didn't even know about there was this whole world of like conservators and, you know, conservation and custodians and all of this kind of stuff. I never went to a museum. My idea of museum was always like school trips. Do you see what I mean? That was the only time. But I never had parents that took me to museums. My idea of museum was more community centers. I was always going to like some kind of drumming or African arts and crafts supplementary school. So my learning was around like community knowledge. And so my entry point into museums was working on the Young Historians Project. So I went to uni, I studied history. My entry point is history, heritage. I love it. That gets me going. Archives, all of them, something there. But obviously when you go to university, as you're saying, like it's not, the things that I thought I knew wasn't being reflected 100%. Back into scholarship, research. And I'm like, why am I not feeling the energy? What's going on? So when I left university, I met a guy who's actually passed away now, a professor, and then he introduced me to Professor Hakeem Addy. And then, cut a long story short, we went to a conference, and then in that conference, the Young Historians Project was founded. And the Young Historians Project is essentially a program that's encouraging young people of African and Caribbean heritage to study history. So the first project that we did was the Black Liberations Front, and it was all about activism. And that's really what opened up my mind into public history. So I probably would refer to myself as a public historian. Public historian because it's different from, like, I guess, theoretical historians. It's kind of bridging the practical, like seeing history as a doing, as a verb, as an action. And so when we worked on that project, we was doing like a documentary, we did a pop-up exhibition, we was recording. I remember at the time, I was holding all of these equipments on my back, and my mother was like, wait there, you not get paid. And I was like, I'm not getting paid for this, I just love it. You know, and like going to people's houses and recording their oral histories. All of them, something that, so that, so that kind of sparked, that sparked a whole thing of like, you know, history as this doing, as this verb. And that Young Historians Project is what landed me the opportunity to manage the youth program at the National Maritime Museum. So even when I went to the interview, I mean, I didn't visit, like, I just saw youth. That's what attracted me, youth. You see what I mean? And then my entry point was like, how can we encourage, more young people 100%. To just get involved in history and all of that kind of stuff. But I had no desire to be. In fact, I probably still don't have a desire. You know what I mean? My thing is always Bon Babylon.
So I knew you were going to say that. I think that's actually my Instagram bio. I think it's Bon Babylon.
That's the thing.
I understand what you're saying, because for me, when I went into it, as I said, I wanted to change the things on the walls. I don't think I understood the practicalities of it. I don't think I understood the levels of oppression and the ways to change that. I thought I could just go in there, change two things on the wall, and everything would be solved. I didn't think about the systemic angle of it, and I did struggle. I'll be honest. I had a goal. I started doing things, but it didn't feel right. I don't feel like I was making the change that I wanted to. So that's why I then moved on to. I went into volunteer management because I wanted to get the young people in there from the beginning, right? Because at the end of the day, these structures, they stifle underrepresented groups. So how can we get them in there? How can we teach? Because you said you didn't know about this. I didn't know about this world. I kind of stumbled into it. But that was one of the main challenges I had. Just, you can't just change the things on the walls. It's not enough. You need to mash up the infrastructure.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you feel like you had any struggles or barriers?
I think the main struggle that I continue to have, even from the times that, like, you know, I met you and so forth at the museums and working across youth, and then I moved from youth to doing more community work and etc. I feel like my thing is like the documenting and doing the work, but the struggle that I have is when you're positioning yourself inside these institutions, it becomes activism. Absolutely. And I've never said I'm an activist, but every time I go to conferences and so forth, I was like, an activist historian. I'm like, I'm not. I'm simply doing the work. You know what I mean? My thing is like documenting, undocumented, untold stories, things that have been forgotten, bridging the gap, all of these kind of stuff. It's not to say that I disrespect activists or anything like that, but I guess you have an idea of yourself, and then you go into these places and they put you in a box, specific classification,
especially as a black woman as well, in a very, very white dominated space.
Exactly. So I was just like, when I started, and the things that I continue to do is just like doing the work, and I try and switch off how that is perceived or how that is like discussed in the broader discourse of like activism, decolonization, all of these kind of isms and schisms. Buzzword is like, what are we actually doing?
And that is key, because you know, after Black Lives Matter, right? There was you laugh.
I love how there's this like before and after,
because it's like after Black Lives Matter, all the culture institutions was like, oh my gosh, you know, it's time to, you know, really get involved. It's like, which was difficult for me, because it's like people have been trying to make spaces inclusive from the dawn of time, right? But that was like, you have to act, and I feel like a lot of institutions, and do you know what? It goes for all organisations. Everybody started doing equity, diversity, and inclusion. Big up them, because I got a job now. Do you know what I mean? Which is also strange to work in diversity and equity inclusion, right? To me, I'm like, I can't believe sometimes that my job is to make people think about others and be kind, which is just really very strange. I get paid to do that, but obviously got to do, you got to. But anyways, after Black Lives Matter, we saw everyone getting involved, and a lot of it was lip service, right? But I do think some good projects came out of it, and I do think it did make a change. But I'm like, now some places have fallen off, and what is what do you think? Big question, but what do you think? Where are we going? Because you're a part of the movement, right? So
somehow, you know, I think just by virtue of being black in certain spaces, you become part of that broader kind of discourse around, decolonizing, deconstructing, reimagining, all of these kind of buzzwords that people use. And I think it's very much a double-edged sword, you know what I mean? There's, as you said, a lot of positive projects emerge. A lot of people starting to think more,
which is great.
Critically engage more, and care more, and think about actually what is my responsibility, or why am I here? A lot of people who, you know, from a certain, you know, position are structurally enabled, should I say?
Well worded.
Structurally, people who are structurally enabled, you know, they started thinking, wait, why am I here? And how did I get here? And how is my journey different from like Aleema's journey or whatever? So it is positive in that sense, and we got to kind of just focus on the positive aspects of it. But definitely, like any project, there's that double-edged sword, the burnout, the performance. But also, I feel like, I guess one of the things that was particularly frustrating for me, particularly as someone who came from this grassroots community knowledge background, supplementary schools, as you said, these things have been existing. People have been creating like something from nothing. And a lot of those organizations that have been doing the work didn't get the Jews because they don't have that sexy language of social media,
which is so
they don't
frustrating.
they don't have the brand, they don't have the partnership, they're just
they don't have the financial backing line. A lot of them,
right? They're just on the front line kind of doing the work. And so my thing was, you know, there were so many things that's propping up, that's developing something new, but I felt like more energy could be around actually look at those who are on the ground and how can we actually support those organizations on the ground. But it's a I don't know what the direction is.
I'm scared.
It's a scary place
It feels positive, but then in some respects things have gone backwards. Culture wars popping off left, right, and centre.
But I think that's also one of the things that I'm actually doing a lecture next week about pop culture. At Syracuse University, but looking at like pop culture in the media and what happens when something becomes popular. I think this is like a very I see Black Lives Matter as part of that. Like, it becomes popular, it becomes well known, but you always lose something as something comes into the mainstream. It's a particular type of message that they want to put forward.
What do you think we've lost?
I think we've lost the fact that blackness isn't a critique of whiteness.
Absolutely not.
And I think that's like the main thing. You know what I mean? Is like a lot of people emerge out of that, black and white and brown people emerge out with this kind of victim narrative. You know what I mean? And their entry point was like only seeing themselves in contestation too. So a lot of the work that I'm trying to do now is kind of develop more affirmative methodologies of not seeing my existence just as a critique of.
I know.
Do you see what I mean?
It's not always against the counterpart.
We've got our own knowledges. We've got our own ways of knowing. We've got our own kind of isms and schism, and that's what I want to center, as opposed to how it impacts you or affects you. You know, that's not the business. You just I do the work. So I think it's more kind of not seeing blackness is more than just a critique. You know what I mean? So so
we're getting somewhere. I'm really excited to talk about your PhD.
I
just want to say, do you know what? People come on the show and I like to give people their flowers, because I'll only have people on here that I truly, truly respect. And before you even come, right, my team asked me, like, you seem a bit nervous. And I was like, I feel a bit nervous because Aleema is someone I truly admire. Like, truly. If I had stayed within the if I'd stayed within the museum space, I feel like everything you've done is incredible. Like, I mean that from the depths of my heart. Like, I think the work that you do transcends everything, you know? Like, you're doing it for the people. So
I need to record this for my CV.
You can get a little soundbite. I want to talk about your PhD because also I don't know many people with a PhD. So when you graduated, I felt proud. I was like, go and do it. So let's talk a little bit about your PhD. Let's start with the basics. What is your PhD? We also know you've got scholarships. Let's talk a little bit about that. Give it to me. Give it all.
Oh my goodness.
Give it all.
Okay, where do I begin? In the trenches. I always knew. So I wasn't born in this country. I was born I was born in Portland, Jamaica. I'm from a Rastafari tradition. So my parents are Rasta, family is Rasta, and so my entry point into the UK was always, my dad, cut long story short, was born in this country and decided to burn Babylon and go to the hills of Portland, Jamaica. I met my mum and had all these kids. So his idea of Britain was a very contested space.
Okay.
You know what I mean? He
not
was
wrong.
Like, he was kind of like, that's not a good place for me, etc., etc. He left in the 70s during that upswell moment of like race tension, all of them something there. So he left and he was like, this is not a space that's good for my soul. But obviously my mother, who was born in Jamaica, she was like, no, the kids need opportunities, etc. So we came here. But I always came with the intention that this is a space and I have access to certain things. Do you see what I mean?
Okay.
I have privilege in this space. Enough black people need to remember, not even just black people need to remember that. However, whatever activist work you're doing, you have a privilege of being here.
100%.
Of having access, movement, mobility, passport, these things that when I think about some of the people where I'm from. So I always came to this place from a moment of like, thinking I have an opportunity to be educated, to make money, whatever it is you do, I have access to things. So I always knew that I wanted to make the most of, because I always had this idea in my mind that we're just passing through, because my dad was so upset with being here. He was like, we're just passing through, you know, and even that, the accent that I have, like everything, like the way in which we were raised was like, you are not British, you know, even though I've been here so young, like a kid. Like, it was just always drilled into my mind. Because
how old was you when you moved?
Like, kid, like 7, like, young.
Like me?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So what's going on with my accent? What's going on with
you? haven't got the American... But it's because I was also back and forth.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time, but I was...
And your parents...
Yeah.
Yeah, both of my parents have different accents to me, so...
Yeah, like, the mother is
confusing
Jamaican
from
and
the
stuff
beginning.
like that.
Yeah.
But also the Rasta thing was like, don't become British, you know, Bon Babylon, Bon Babylon, Bon Babylon was just always drilled into my brain. So I always knew that I wanted to make the most out of this opportunity that I had. And I feel like there's 2 routes. You can make money or learn, you know what I mean? So I got in love with the learning. History was always my thing. I love stories. I guess not necessarily history, but the storytelling. In Jamaica, we have a very, not even just Jamaica, those who have been historically, you know, carried beyond their borders, enslaved.
What a lovely way to word that as well.
Those, we don't have the material, we don't have it. Our thing is oral culture, right? Folklore. My grandma said this, so I remember the time this and this
everything
happened.
gets passed down. But you're right.
Through words
orally,
and through like what we're doing now, like reasoning and speaking. So I always was in love with that. I studied history, went to university, same like you know, what are you gonna do with that degree? My parents in a business, they were just happy that I went to university and so forth, because they both left school when they were like 10 and stuff. So I went to university, and then still I was like, nah, this ain't it.
Okay.
You know, this ain't it.
Didn't feel fulfilled
Until the Young Historians Project, where I was like, there's actually something that you can do here. So after the Young Historians Project that I did, on black activism and the Black Liberation Front, then I decided to do my master's. And in 1 second,
what was your master's in?
It was at SOAS, and it was in like migration studies. It wasn't history. So that's what I'm saying. I left history and I was like, maybe I'm gonna do a bit of social anthropology. You know, maybe there's something else. For you? That was even worse for me, because social anthropology, there's just something that I have wrong with this idea of people as ethnography and the study of people and positionality and all of these things. There's something icky about
something
it.
Isn't right with it, especially ethnography. And the way that they advertise ethnography, right? It's very, to put it simply, white saviourist. Right. It's got that... It's got that undertone of white people going to places and taking these stories and reinterpreting them in their own way, which is, you know... You know.
So they're that savioristic mode. And then also I went to SOAS. SOAS for me was a very strange minefield, you know, School of Oriental and African Studies. I
know. I really wanted to go there at one point.
I wanted to go. I don't know why I went there. I mean, it was good in the sense of, you know, it's very international and so forth, but I just feel like there was a mindset or the teaching and the practice at SOAS that was very white saviorist, you know? So I really struggled there. And I was like, I miss history. I miss all it. I miss that kind of heritage element. And then I knew that, and then I graduated with my master's. I was like mad confused. You know, I was just doing random, like I worked at UCL for a bit. I was doing comms. You know, people in humanities, we struggle. We struggle because there's no straight line. There's no straight line. So I was just like, maybe I'm going to do marketing. Maybe I'm going to do comms. Like maybe I'm going to, and then you need to make money at the same time. So I was doing all of these random jobs, and then I was like, I really want to do my PhD. Like I knew that I wanted to do the PhD, documenting my community, my culture, and kind of bridging that gap, creating a reference point. But I was like, nobody in my family's ever done a PhD. I don't even know what the hell I'm doing. Like, so, you know, so I see a couple opportunities. Put a couple, like the PhD is a very long process. You got to create a proposal. I knew that I wanted, you could either do like apply for a preconceived project, which is like a studentship. Or you can like create your own proposal and hope that you can find a scholarship to support that. So it's just a minefield, madness. But I was like, yeah, man, I have the idea of doing a history of Rastafari in Britain. That was my idea.
Okay.
And then I was applying, I was getting rejected hard.
Left, right and centre.
The rejection. But you know, the other day my sister said something to me and she was like, rejection isn't rejection, it's a process of redirection.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, it was good because essentially I was getting rejected, and one of the last ones that I got rejected to, you know them ones where you apply for something and you swear you have it. I was spending the money. I was mapping out my life already because I knew it was only me and another girl that went for the interview, and I was like, this project is about reggae, it's about Black British history, it's about da-da-da-da-da. You know when you feel and you know in your core you have it.
Yeah.
Like I was already like looking for flats and stuff like that. You know, like I really... And then they told me I don't have it. And they said I don't have it because they felt like my methodology wasn't rigorous, you know? Rigorous. This is what the academy used. Like, it wasn't... Interesting. So after that, Kimberly, I was like, Bun Babylon, man. I'm tired of this shit. Why am I here? If I'm just going to be here doing shit, I might as well go home.
Yeah, I get you.
Like, I might as well go home and farm and do something positive.
And
you know?
relax.
Yeah. So I went home.
For how long?
For a year.
Wow.
I went to Jamaica for a year. I fled. I went by the rivers of Zion and I was like shredding all of the fuckery and the, you know. Sorry, I don't know if I could swear.
You can do whatever you like, darling. This is your story.
So yeah, I went there and boom, boom, I was in Jamaica, but I feel like I was in Jamaica hiding. You know when you're hiding, you know that there's something to do.
Yeah,
but
I get you.
It was in my chest like, Aleema, you know, so you still need to go for the PhD.
I love that though.
Yeah, but like I was...
Because you didn't let it knock you like forever.
No.
But I do believe, right, that I always believe what's for you will find you, right? When things don't work out, it's because it wasn't supposed... that whatever would have happened with that, if you got accepted that time, it wouldn't have... something would not been right. Yeah. I feel like timing is like...
Everything.
Exactly. And not everybody has... I think I've had that mindset because lots of negative things happen.
Right, yeah. It got to a point where you're just like, I can't bear no more rejection. Like the rejection was harsh and you're putting your soul and everything into it. So I went to Jamaica and I was like, boom, boom, boom. So I was there by the rivers of Zion, just like reflecting on my life. And then I got an email from my supervisor saying, oh, Aleema, like a year after, you know, it's a woman that I initially applied and I got rejected for. It wasn't her reason, but it was just there wasn't funding. She was like, oh, you still interested in doing your PhD? Because we've got a, you know, scholarship going at the Caribbean Research Centre. And I think your proposal really fits. And it's a Black woman, really, that opened the gates for I. Big up Melissa Ono George.
Tell them.
And I was like, rah. But at that point, I had given up. So I was like, I just, you know, you send the email like, another one. Yeah. And then they gave me the interview. And then they said, yeah, you're on board. You got your PhD. Like, not you got your PhD, but you're on your journey to do your PhD. So that was the starting point. And I had no idea what the fuck I was doing, you know? No idea.
But you know, it's good. It's good to say that. It's good for people to know that sometimes people just work things out as they go.
I had no bloody clue. I didn't know. All I knew is that I have this idea. I want to do a history of Rastafari in Britain. That is it. And I want to do it in a way that I'm using a methodology that is a Rastafari methodology.
And tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, so my thing was like, there were so many... So Rastafari, or some people say Rastafari, and I say Rastafari. A lot of people associate it with like Bob Marley. Yeah. It's got a very sexy appeal. You know, dreadlocks, ganja, reggae, sound systems, fashion, all of this kind of stuff. So I feel like everybody knows about Rasta. Everyone knows about Rasta. But nobody really knows about Rasta. It's one of them popular, you know, movements. It's true. Know what I mean? It's like everybody knows, I listen to reggae or sound systems or dub, or there's some kind of connection. But they don't really know, like, who are these people? We know they're a bit... you know, but we don't really know them. So my thing was like, how can something that's such a popular cultural movement, there's everywhere in the world you go. I was in Mexico and I'm buying a Rasta hat with like fake dreadlocks. The reach
is
so far.
Also for such a small island, the reach.
Yeah. So I was just like, this is like such a popular thing, but like nobody actually understands who we are and where we're from and all of these kind of isms. And I didn't want to do a PhD that's like explaining what Rastafari is. I wanted to explain our journey outside of Jamaica into Britain, into Babylon, and like how the movement developed kind of thing. But my thing was that there was only one book that had been written on Rasta, and this book was terrible.
Really?
This book was basically saying Rastas, one of the quotes that they had was like, Rastas is responsible for the gang movement in Britain. So in the 70s, when it was this kind of movement of like rock against, you know, racism, all of them, something they're kind of blaming the Rasta for creating a footprint for like gangs and all of this shit.
That's very interesting,
so
isn't it?
Yeah, so it's saying all of this problematic shit, and I was just like, this is the only reference point that there is. So I was just kind of like, understand any community group, particularly community groups that have been historically, you know, forgotten and outside of the reference points, we need to listen to them and also understand how their knowledge, they're not just participants, they're also like producers of knowledge.
Absolutely.
And how can we like be in conversation with that knowledge to write the history? So my PhD is one part methodology, like the methodology of like community engagement, participation, all of them, something there. But it was also like trying to document the history of that. And it came with many challenges, like the work that we do around like curating.
Yes.
There is not a process in place. There's not like a structure. There's not an approach. You're developing the approach as you're kind
as
of
you're
doing
going,
it.
yeah.
So you're killing yourself, you know? You're burning out.
I hear you.
So it's not easy, you know, community work and community curating and, you know, doing things that's like different. It's not easy because you're kind of trying to design that like there's no I don't have anyone that I can be like, yeah. So it's like, it was a struggle, but, you know, I made it and, you know, I passed my Viva, and now apparently I'm Dr Aleema Gray. With the title of my PhD called Bun Babylon.
And I love that. The title of this episode is going to be called Bun Babylon. Just so you're aware. That's just I love that you chose that topic and you went with it. Did anyone question the title?
You know what? No.
Good.
Yeah, I think I was very lucky in the sense that I had two amazing supervisors that was very supportive of the work and so forth. And I guess because in the end, it's like what you do is, you know, when you can't find the answers, I always just kind of say like, it's the community that's kind of designing it. So I wanted it to be that I'm not telling the story. There's multiple stories.
Yes.
And I wanted to make sure that the people that I interview is involved in that process of critiquing and checking me, because Rastas, like, they're very critical. Do you know what I mean? And even though I'm like within the movement, they'll be like, you know what, Aleema, you never really do right there and stuff. They're constantly checking me. And I think that's important. Like, if you're in a position of producing knowledge, of curating content, like, you need to be comfortable with being checked.
100%.
Like, being checked all the time and
yeah.
challenged. Like, I'm not writing these stories, there's multiple stories. 100%. And I hope that after me or there'll alongside me, there's going to be more and more people that's kind of focusing in on specific aspects of the movement and so forth.
It's true what you say though, because yeah, you're right. People don't have a true understanding of what being a Rasta. Anyone with locks, they think Rasta. Firstly, no, because it's actually a very popular hairstyle at the minute.
Yeah. You probably have so many people saying Empress.
Oh my gosh. I live in South London, whenever I walk down the high street, Miss Empress. Rasta, Nubian Queen. I'm like, I'm not Rasta. Everyone. So I want everyone to know I'm not Rasta, okay? But growing up, my uncle, my family, when they moved over for Windrush, they settled in Nottingham. Right. So I'd go and spend some time in Nottingham with my family. My uncle, he's a Rasta.
Right.
He'd put me in front of YouTube and just watch whatever the YouTube version of documentaries at the time, so much about the movement, because he would always be like to me, it ain't just a little dreadlock and people smoking weed. It's not just about that. There's so much. There's Haile Selassie, Marcus Garvey. We're moving. Ethiopia, what's going on? And to be fair, that did make me think about studying anthropology.
Really?
Massively, because obviously my heritage is going to say I'm from Jamaica. I don't want to offend anybody. My grandparents are Jamaican. My grandparents are also Guyanese. I'm obviously in touch in a different way to maybe other people, but sitting down and learning about something different, I was like, this is what it's about. Yeah. This is what it's about. And one of my projects at uni was about the Rasta movement. I remember.
No.
Because like I felt like there was too many stereotypes surrounding it, and I didn't feel like they were that positive, and I didn't like that. I felt like this is something that's really, really beautiful, and people don't look into things, right? Do they? So it's an interesting one, because as you said, everyone knows Rasta, Bob Marley, and that's the end of it.
But I also think this is what I mean about pop culture and what becomes popular, because the image that became popular from the 1970s and 80s is this image of a man with a sound system looking good and a spliff, you know, and causing trouble. So when we look at like all of the kind of films, even the recent films that we see around like Black British culture, there's always, the Rasta is always the person who is causing trouble. You know what I mean? And it's like, actually, we're the people who started like the first bookshops and I don't even want to do this thing like the first, because I feel like I hate this idea of Black excellence.
I hear it.
We're the first, and we're not the first. There's probably someone
100%
before. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like we are so ingrained in terms of like intellectualism and Black radicalism and schools and supplementary schools and repatriation, Haile Selassie, Marcus Garvey, Amy Ashwood Garvey, you know, Pan-Africanism and all of these things.
That's the first time I learned about Pan-Africanism.
Yeah, but it's like in pop culture and the imagery around Rastafari that's reinforcing the Clarks and the fashion and the man.
Do you love a little Clark?
I love the Clarks. I love the Clarks.
But it's like Clarks?
What happens is that we're swallowing kind of, an image.
It's also deducing what the movement's about, really, and kind of sensationalizing it in an interesting way. If there's anything, what's one thing you'd like people to know about the Rasta movement that you think people don't know?
Like, I feel like a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of children of Rastafari, like myself. A lot, like one of the things that, you know, I did a chapter about like Rastafari girls, because I feel like that disrupts a lot of the imagery around what we think of when we think of a Rasta. Of men. We think of immediately a man in his 30s or an elder with a big bongo or something like that. But I feel like looking at like some of the visual photography emerging out of like Handsworth, and looking at, actually there's these young Rastafari girls who are like 10, 12, tying their hair, and I feel like that just disrupts so much of what we think about of Rastafari. So for me, it's a liberty, and liberty is, you know, a way of life. It's a kind of you in conversation with the Most High, with the world around you, and choosing a practice that's opening up that oneness. And that looks like ITAL diets are vegan, that looks like food, you know, ganja definitely is part of it, spiritualism, reading the Bible, Haile Selassie. So it's a whole holistic approach of reimagining a new way to be us as African heritage people, and connecting with the environment as well. So even environmentalism, we're like one of the first. See,
because you know that's a buzzword at the minute. Sustainability.
So all of the buzzwords is kind of like, Rastas have been doing this from time.
But this just circles back to what we were saying. People have been doing things from time.
And this is what I feel like the importance of the study of history. And I think since Black Lives Matter, there's been a lot of people that's been doing very surface level research, you know, YouTube, and kind of pulling out just some random images
facts
and going on Wikipedia. And I'm just kind of like, I really want to encourage everyone to like visit your local archives, investigate, try and just dig below the baseline. And so, sorry, I'm laughing because of the exhibition.
It's a good segue.
But yeah, try and dig a little bit, because when you go into the archives, you know, I'm finding letters from elders writing to the Queen in 1940. What is Rastas doing here in 1940? So I just feel like, there's a just need to like, let's do more intentional work. That's what I'm saying. If you're in a position, if you're putting yourself forward and saying, I'm this, you know, content curator or whatever, you know, we talk about curating and the word, how that's been, but like, if you're putting yourself in that position of being a voice, like, just make sure you do a little bit of the work, man, and just make sure you're not.
I don't know if everyone wants to do that anymore.
People don't want to do the work. Babe. They want to cut corners.
And I hear it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? We're tired.
Yeah.
And the work, any type of work that I guess borders the lines of activism, right? Yeah. It's tiring work. No one should say that it's not. Yeah. It definitely, it feeds your soul in a way, but also can crush it. Yeah. In many ways, depending on what spaces you're navigating in. But you did a little cheeky segue there. She mentioned the word baseline. Okay. Let us talk about Beyond the Baseline, which is a new exhibition coming to the British Library, April 26th. Whee! This episode will be out by then, after that, baby. So, but it's open until August, right?
Yeah.
So go and see it. But let's talk about Beyond the Baseline. I'm really excited. I spent a lot of time on the page yesterday. I'm honestly like,
it's not
for
really
me,
a lot of information.
It doesn't give that much.
The marketing team ain't really, but anyway,
don't worry about that. Yeah. My thing is like, I'm a selfish consumer. I ain't gonna lie. I do like to consume things that relate to me. I'm not gonna sit here and deny it. Like that is interesting to me. So I feel a little bit of joy when I saw Beyond the Bass, and I was like. So let's talk a little bit about what it is about. Okay, it's like 500 years of Black British music.
Yeah,
am I right? Yeah,
that's true. So Beyond the Bassline is an exhibition that is open at the British Library. So it's a partnership project. So how I got involved with this project is Michael Riley, who is Dr. Michael Riley, actually.
Oh, another doctor in the house.
Another doctor, who is actually a member of, was a founding member of Steel Pulse. And for those of you who don't know, Steel Pulse is like one of the early Black British bands. Actually, I think they were the first Black British band to win a Grammy or something like that in the 1980s. Yeah, so they came out of Handsworth doing really impactful, kind of bridging, putting the focus on like Black British reggae. So he was part of the band, but after a while or whatever, he formed the Black Music Research Unit at the University of Westminster.
Yep.
So he's been doing a lot of work. The unit has been doing a lot of work around researching Black music, Black British music, but also looking at the influence and the impact of Jamaican heritage music specifically. And so I think he did a project called Bass Cultures in 2018, which was essentially...
That?
I actually don't know where the exhibition
I think like
opened.
that rings a bell, but anyways, yes.
But it's got amazing like podcasts and like interviews with some of the amazing like sound system men, etc. So I think that started the process of the unit thinking about how can we broaden this story, because I do feel like there's a bit of a issue with only seeing like Black history, as Caribbean history, and
Definitely.
Black history as only like starting slavery,
negative,
and also only Windrush. Like there's this Windrushification,
which is so
of the
interesting.
history, which is like
people don't know there were Black people before Windrush.
Yeah, exactly.
And even actually, when people think of Windrush, they do only specifically think of Caribbean people only. They don't think about anyone else that may or may not have joined them. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, so I think the intention was to like to broaden out the kind of subject to look at, okay, what would it mean to look at Black music outside of like the 20th century, 21st century? How can we like take this story back? So the research unit kind of put forward the proposal to the library, and the library accepted, and my thing was to come on board as the lead curator of turning it into a narrative that can connect, that can disrupt, that can,
100%.
all of them something there. It's been a very challenging project, because it's a very ambitious one, Black music, 500 years. How the fuck, like, where do you start?
That's many years,
That's a lot of years, and also 500 years in one space. You know what I mean? So it was a super challenge. I love challenges, but this one nearly knocked me out of the, this one knocked me out of the water. Especially because I'm not, I guess Michael is coming in with a lot of the musicality and that knowledge. I'm not a musician. I dabble. A DJ here and there. You know what I mean? I might have my little aux chord, but obviously music is life and stuff, but I'm not a music head. I'm coming in as a historian.
But you need that though, right? You need all of the different angles to make one. And I think as well, when it comes to like exhibitions and stuff, people don't realize there are so many people.
Oh my God. People don't know.
Listen.
You know what?
People don't know.
I always used to say, before working in museums and galleries and stuff, I used to say, why is it so shit? Like, why do these displays look so shit? Why is it so boring? Why does it just look, no matter what you try to do, it just look boring? And since working on a couple of exhibition projects from Museum of London to whatever, like National Maritime Museum, I'm like, I understand why. Because behind each hanging, there is about 1 million emails that
don't
goes
even get me started on stanchions.
It's mad. So it's been
just for context, if you don't know what a stanchion is, right? If you ever go into an exhibition or any type of space and there's a little bit of a barrier, right? You don't understand the work that goes into that. The measurements. Like I remember, I think I spent about 3 weeks just on stanchions once.
It's silly.
It's silly, but it's silly. It takes so much work goes into an exhibition. People think it just pops up and it's so I think it's I'm happy to have this conversation so people can understand that, like, when you go in there, be a little bit less critical.
Be less critical, because
be less
honestly, that every object needs like a distance between it. You need a label. The label needs to also
Don't get me started on the label right.
You need to think about like audiences. You need to also think about the institutional audience.
Accessibility.
And your audience, accessibility, lighting,
you need to get the right colours, you need to get the right font, you need to get the right size.
Loan letters, permissions, insurance, all of them something there. It's been a marathon. The exhibition has been a marathon because I guess it's a new venture for the library. Libraries are places, my idea of the British Library was a place to be quiet, not a place to be loud. I just used to use it for the reading room. You go in there in the reading room. So it's been a journey, like what it means to, put on a music exhibition in a library. It's a bit of a juxtaposition.
Yeah.
But also, I guess, a music that's coming out of a culture that has been, historically outside and historically like forgotten within these places as well. So I spent a long time at first when I sat with the research and I looked at like the narrative and I was like, where do I start? Oh, can I pull it together? Do we take a thematic approach? Do we take a chronological approach? Who do we work with? And then the time. So I came on board last year. Last year.
Yeah, I know.
The exhibition was put together. My whole of my left body, I can't feel it. The work has been it's been a lot. It's been a lot. So I guess I'm saying this because it's like people come to the show, just leave me alone. Don't bother just ask me why isn't so and so included. Me can't manage. Do the exhibition
There's only
yourself.
So much you can do though.
That's what I'm saying. For me, Beyond the Baseline is a starting point, or not even a starting point, is a continuation of a conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that, after this exhibition, there's going to be many more. And for me, what the importance of it is kind of showing that this, what has been historically seen as intangible culture, like sound and music, intangible, is tangible.
100%.
And we can bring it into a show. We can make people feel embodied, understand that there's a context, there's a history, there's a legacy around this work, and it's not just pop.
100%.
Do you see what I mean? It's actually, there's something that's like deeper than that. So that's why it's called Beyond the Baseline. 500 years of Black British music. So we start in the 16th century.
Woo!
And we take it all the way up to,
how
where
far
we
up
are now.
Are we going? Right till now?
Right till now. So we've got even No Signal in there. We've got some objects from No Signal. So right now in terms of contemporary culture, and I guess how I approached it is from a spatial point of view. So each of the spaces in the exhibition is a chronological exhibition taking visitors on a journey, but we start in the ocean and we end up in cyberspace. So,
wow.
Yeah. So
okay. Sorry, I didn't expect that. Right. I can't wait to go to this. So there's a lot going on.
There's a lot.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
But it's not even just the exhibition. We, at the heart, as I was saying, of like everything that we're doing is collaboration, right? So I felt a bit sorry for the library many times because my way of working, it's hard to keep up with it because you're involving so many different people. So we have interruption spaces throughout. We've got commissions by Rohan and Tayo in collaboration with Touching Base. So they did a 5-screen installation film. We've got Liz Johnson Arthur in the entrance hall. We've got soundscapes. We've got tea and coffee. No, I'm joking.
Tea and coffee.
No, I'm joking. We haven't. But I guess it's a whole.
Yes.
It's a whole thing. You know what I mean? And I think there's been so many different people that's participated and that's responded and that's been given a little piece of agency to kind of do their own curating the story. Because I guess what I didn't want to do it Beyond the Baseline is to say this is the history. And that's it. Like it's not. It's just we're bringing something together. We're looking at music as a conversation across time and space.
I'm so excited.
And so that conversation involves so many different people, and it's crazy.
So
that
big
it's
things to expect, really, is what you're saying. What you're saying,
within reason, because as I said, it's been impossible. It's been mission impossible.
But you've done it though.
Yeah, it's done, and it's done me. So
she's finished. But you're happy? Yes.
I think I'm never really happy when you work on something for so long. You can't unsee things. You know what I mean? You know when you work on a show and it's just like people's like, this is amazing. I'm like, it's shit because it should have been a different color.
Also, it's also because you've seen it. So you've been so immersed in it. Yeah. It's hard to step out. But I will say that the way that you just spoke about it was with a lot of passion, and that's my favorite thing. When people speak about things they care about, their entire body language changes. That you were up. So just based on that, I'm gonna go see it.
I think it's more hysteria than anything else.
I'm gonna go see it at the end of the day. I feel like I'm going to enjoy it. And anyone that's listening in, please go and see it. I feel like with these types of things, it's always about starting conversations, right? Like you're gonna take away whatever you want when you go to an exhibition space. You're gonna be critiquing, and you should tone that down, yeah? Because as we've said, a lot of work's gone into it. Go in with an open mind and see where we can go. So yeah, April 26th, it opens until August.
Yeah, August 26th.
And then we'll see what happens next. I then now want to touch on, you got a little venture I've seen on Instagram, yeah?
You see, we can't stop, won't stop. Can't stop.
Multidisciplinary artist is what I might call you from now on. I've seen you got a little something called House of Dread.
Yes.
Firstly, well done on the name.
Well done on
the name. Amazing name.
I've been sitting on it for a while. You know,
how long?
I've been, you know what, the idea's been bubbling for like 2 years, but I feel like between Black Lives Matter and all of these performances that's going around, I was like, I don't want to just jump on this thing 100%. And whatever. But for me, House of Dread is basically responding to all of the work that I do. I'm kind of calling it an anti-disciplinary heritage studio. And
okay,
anti-disciplinary, not being against multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, but I guess it's really trying to situate that there's a new way of doing things. So trying to manifest something new and understanding that, you know, things are existing, that there's a discipline, but we want to go outside of that discipline.
I like
that. The box, we're a circle, we're not a box. And so when I think about discipline, I think about just this rigorous regimen of something. So it's an explorative project, and the first project that we're doing is looking at St Agnes Place, which is a house in South London. We're doing oral histories. We're going to kind of recruit some community producers, produce something. Once again, it's participation. It's at the heart.
Any roles open for me?
We're gonna be posting some soon. You're welcome to apply. But you know, so it's just the journey continues, and for me, I want to like channel all of the work that I'm doing through House of Dread. It's a life search, it's a continuation of things, and I'm really excited to just be all of the opportunities that's coming to me. I'm very, very grateful, and I just gotta keep my feet on the ground and stay humble.
I feel like you've got your feet on the ground. I like that you've got your, what do we say in England? You've got your fingers in many pies. Is that the saying? I don't know. I'm not good at saying. I don't know why I try things like that. You have your fingers in many pies, hands in many spinning plates.
Spinning plates. Yeah.
No, I don't think that's a good thing. Do you know what? Between you and me, why would we know the English saying? Do you know what? Let's just forget that. What I meant to say is, you're doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
You're doing a lot of things. We've covered many a topic. And my takeaway, do you know what? This is just amazing. Speaking to you is amazing. I feel really uplifted.
Thanks,
because you're doing the work that I think needs to be done, and you're going forward, and I'm really excited for House of Dread. I want to be getting involved. I'm going to be reposting it. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. I feel like the conversation's been riveting, you know? It's really got me in my element. It's nice to speak to someone as well who has worked in a similar like field.
Right.
I'm nowhere where you are.
Stop it.
We started in the same place. Gone in different directions, but big up National Maritime Museum, because you know, it did start my career. It started my career, and you know, highs and lows. I met some great people, you know, and I understood the foundations of a museum. I understand the foundations of curation and all of these random jobs that exist within the space.
Literally.
Like even conservatives, like even that was, there's different types of curators. We had art collections, the learnings, but a lot was going on. Anyways, we learned a lot from there. So I just want to round off, right?
Okay.
We're going to round off, but first I want you to basically plug yourself. Where can the people then find you?
Boy, people then find me anywhere and everywhere. I guess, my name, Aleema Gray, but definitely House of Dread. Many of the works and projects that I'll be doing now is going to be through House of Dread. So follow House of Dread,
House
please.
of Dread. Oh, don't worry, I'm going to push you. I'm going to push House of Dread. We're going to be seeing a lot more of you. I'm really excited for whatever happens for you in the future.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much, everybody, for listening. This is really emotional for me. Sorry, I'm joking. I've been your host, Kim. Thank you for listening to Out of Office with Kim. Come back next week for someone fun.